Hey, we are live in this show. We have got talking about the Runc and POC, a new vulnerability database, a bunch of strange money being thrown around, and some demonstrations of some pretty cool online tools. My name is Steve Giguere.
And I'm Mike Foster, and welcome to the show. Yeah, we got a packed show today, so pretty excited to get this going and get started with this. If you're watching on Twitch, follow. You should have some clips coming your way. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, and share the little stuff that we got going on. Because we're gonna clip some stuff. It's gonna be great. You'll see it. We'll let you know. A ton of good stuff to kick off. Steve, any announcements? Anything going on in your world?
I did a podcast this week with this guy. Brian Hoagley. He's like a CISO. No, I was about to say CISO fire. He runs what would you call it? An organization in the States where if you can't afford a CISO, they have like a pool, and you can like tap into them one day a week kind of thing, and get the kind of strategy laid out so that when you move into like getting the money to afford the real thing, he can help you do that. And it was like a really fascinating conversation. So for me, my Cozy Cast podcast with that dude is coming out next Wednesday. And it was very cool. The dude had like a light room, like those ones where you draw, like what Wyatt Stackrocks has, but he's got like with soundproofing and stuff. He was already on video. And then I was like, I only do audio. And he went, oh, we do. But no, in the end, we did it. We actually recorded all the video. So it'll be my first video release. So it's going on YouTube as well. I just got to figure that out.
Awesome.
It was almost embarrassing.
That's cool. Yeah, I like those setups. I don't know how people do the writing on the board and how it turns out so crisp, but yeah, that's pretty cool. On my end, we just came off a CNCF meetup for Canada. If y'all are interested, Dan Pop was there. And we're looking at Falco, looking at runtime security, worth the checkout. Let's just get into it.
All right. Our first big article is from Microsoft. Microsoft build. You've probably heard this said a lot over the past year. Build cloud native applications that run anywhere. It's almost a contradictory thing, isn't it? Like if it's a cloud native application, then wouldn't it run in the cloud? But they are essentially following in the footsteps of everybody who's doing a version of this, like when ECS Anywhere was announced at reInvent last December, and now it's basically that if we zoom in a little bit, but probably don't have to, any CNCF, their specific compatible, is that what their word is? Version of Kubernetes is a likely target for deploying Azure applications. Well, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, the CNCF has a whole process for going in and vetting Kubernetes if they are compliant with the open source versions. So yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. I know they trimmed their list because everybody was creating their own, and I actually really appreciate the CNCF doing this because you don't have these random split offs of what a Kubernetes version is, and it becomes harder to be portable across clouds. So really useful. Microsoft took an interesting approach with Arc. right? Because you look at something like Anthos, they say, well, you have to run GKE in order to run your workloads. Instead, Azure and Microsoft went to Rancher, who basically are more of the Kubernetes orchestration type group, and they said, okay, well, you help us manage this. What do you think we should do? Well, get a management software, control the control plane, but you don't necessarily need to know everything or support everything in the cluster, right? Which I think it's just sort of a different management stance, I guess, right? With Anthos, if you're going to go Anthos and you're going to go on-prem, that means that Google has to support you on-prem, which is a challenge in and of itself, right? If you're Microsoft and you say, hey, you're Azure Arc, we'll give you the management platform to manage your on-prem clusters, but we're not going to support whatever Kubernetes version you need. You just know that you can install and use the software. More scalable, I think, easier to integrate for people. It comes with the lack of support on-prem, but it's one way that you could say, hey, like I'm going to run my production clusters in Azure and I'm going to do all my development and testing on-prem, and the operations team can manage on-prem. There's a couple different ways you could set it up. So pretty cool. And they got a couple big use cases there. PwC, Mercedes-Benz.
And, definitely. They're hitting the ground running. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. It's a little bit, I think it's like a little bit of a, well, I feel like it's like, I think we were talking about game consoles earlier, how whoever comes out with the latest is like, oh, we do all what they did, except now it doesn't have to be, well, even the EKS Anywhere, you have to get that version of Kubernetes. Mm-hmm. So this is any version that is compatible, which is compliant was the word used. That's the next level. And that's kind of, I think, what people kind of want. It was funny you mentioned that it's Rancher in the background, because when Azure Arc was first announced, I was at a Rancher, Microsoft was guest speaking at a Rancher event that I was at. And they went up and went, da-da! And I was sitting with the Rancher guys going, isn't that you? Like, what? What he's saying sounds a lot like Rancher. And he's just like, It's like, I didn't know it was common knowledge, but that's it sounds good.
Yeah, it's also an interesting use case. Just in being first to market doesn't necessarily mean that you have the best product, I think. Because Anthos wanted to be the hot thing. It still is, still extremely useful, still a cool project. But Brendan Burns is now at Microsoft, right? So I guarantee you there's some sort of conversation there at the upper levels of how do we do Anthos but not Anthos? It's like, okay, well, this is one way to do it, right? And an easy way to support and scale it, especially internally. EKS Anywhere, I know that, you can have this great tech setup, but then let's say you have a massive influx of people wanting to use it. Do you have the internal support system there to make sure that you can maintain and support your customers, right? There's a lot more that goes into it. So cool. Yeah, really, it's just the typical Microsoft, I'm going to learn from your mistakes, I'm going to operationalize it, and then go to like all the big spenders. So
yeah, exactly. And it sounds pretty cool. It sounds really cool. So we move? Are we going to do the new vulnerability database?
Yeah, that's a really cool one. Do you have it up?
You're ahead of me on this. So you walk me through like I'm like a 6-year-old.
Yeah. So vulnerability database, you can sort by risk, by CVE ID, or in an order. Really, you can just type in something like Kubernetes in the vulnerabilities.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily search by the title. It'll search for keywords in the vuln. So you can say, okay, well, what's everything that affects Kubernetes? And then you can kind of sort down. But like there's an Azure one, speaking of AKS. So that one that just came out. Yeah, you can click it and it will tell you, the CVSS score. It'll say if it's critical or not. And it will also kind of say what these vulnerabilities are worth, right? Like if you have a proof of concept, if you have some sort of massive hack, like what is this going for? And if you scroll down a little bit further as well, there is some more information on the analysis of economic impact and as well the area of impact. So where are they seeing these vulns? If you scroll down even further, it'll show you
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it'll show you like North America and Europe seem to be most impacted by this type of vuln.
What kind of number is that? Hold on.
I'm not sure how this is calculated. I haven't looked into this, but
this looks okay. Let me blow this up because this is probably too small for the viewers. You've got to see.
Yeah.
What?
So the predicted
attack. Big number.
Yeah.
That's the number of attacks.
Yeah, I don't know how
12 billion.
I don't know how they calculate this, but I'm assuming what they do is like, let's say if it's specific to AKS and a specific version, they'll look and they'll say, where is this version running most? It's in Europe most.
Yeah.
So it has the highest chance of a massive economic impact.
That's just like, if these guidance numbers weren't on here, like the 100 billion, 200 billion, that would have blown my mind. It still blows my mind. This is a really interesting new look at vulnerabilities. I feel like this might have a negative impact.
It's a weird way of categorizing an exploit.
It's just like, if I were looking to create exploits, I just come here and sort by millions of what one's going to get me the most money in the black market. I'm going to start working on that one.
Yeah, it definitely is a weird way of putting it out there. I'll say that. But I mean, if the CVE is out, realistically, anybody that's worth their salt in security will be able to go and sort through and figure out what one's worth exploiting and what isn't, right? So it's already kind of public knowledge.
Well, yeah, but that puts actual money on it. Now there's no more haggling on the dark web.
Maybe they're trying to price out all the low bidders on the dark web. They're trying to raise the demand.
Oh, that'd be a good tactic. So if they know one is really easy and it's really dangerous, they intentionally put a low number on it so that people go, "Oh, really? Only $10? I guess I won't work on that one then."
Makes you think.
That would be good.
Smart.
Okay, moving swiftly on. That's really cool. I'm gonna have a good play with that. This is, and we left this one in, so we can't take it out now. This is, I'm gonna leave that up, but it's funny when we do, for those of you who don't know what happens behind the scenes, Michael and I meet beforehand and we talk about all the different articles we saw during the day, and my descriptions of things are getting more out there. This one just said Chrome extensions suck. And then there was an article and it was like, that's just how I feel generally. But this is just stats on Recorded Future, which is awesome. Good podcast as well. Thousands of Chrome extensions are tampering with security headers. This is May 25th, 2021. But just going on and talking about, as you communicate to us, 2,485 Chrome extensions disabled at least one security header. And it's just another little lesson in the world of do not install Chrome extensions, he says, as with all of his Chrome extensions littered across the top with all sorts of things. Do as I say, not as I do. Because they basically have full control over your browser and your computer. And it turns out they're also disabling security headers to make their lives easier. Did you get much of a read on here? But I mean, it's just like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I try to use as little extensions as possible. I think I have, VPN, 1Password, and
it is a good point, because with the exception of Evernote, I have security one, discount codes, security one,
uBlock, an ad blocker, right? Like one of those,
an ad blocker, the actual platform we're on at the moment. So it's all legit. Yeah.
We say, as they disable security headers.
Well, as far as we know, right? It's like, there's a platform like probably like a year ago. I think I don't want to say Grammarly because I'll probably be wrong, but they suffered a supply chain attack because they were such a common Chrome extension, and they thought no one's going to hack us. We're just fixing people's spelling and grammar. So why would anybody hack us? Well, because you have access to like 100 million browsers, which have full access to everybody's computers and passwords and everything else. So of course they're going to hack you. It's a supply chain attack again. Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're moving through this. Let's just do the Austin one real quick, because I think it's kind of interesting before we get into the CVEs and.
Yeah. This is, actually, you mentioned this in passing to me, and it does have some fascinating stats. You go lead.
Yeah, Austin wins. Biggest winner from the tech migration. So they looked at the number of tech jobs in specific areas on LinkedIn, and they just did what was it last year? What is it this year? So if you had 200 out of 10,000, and then you had 400 out of 10,000 IT jobs, then you had an increase of 200. And so what they found was Austin in the top area with the largest amount of increase in movement. Now, when I was saying with Steve, is I don't necessarily think it's all because of a tech bubble. Obviously, Austin is growing in terms of tech, but there's also just a general leave from major cities in the US and I'd say major metropolitan cities to, let's say, medium-sized cities, right? Like you look at all of those big gainers, and the big losers are your major cities in the US: San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, New York, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Washington. Like those are big cities in general areas, and they're moving to smaller areas with a lower cost of living, especially in IT. If you can keep that salary and move to a lower cost of living, good for you.
Yeah.
But
upside of the pandemic, you might get to live where you want to live now.
Yeah, upside of the US, because where do I go if I want to get out of Toronto and Canada? UK is going to adopt me soon. Can't go to Niagara Falls. It's just yeah, I'm just jealous that people in Austin and everybody I work with in California always have nice weather. That's pretty much all I'm jealous about. But
there is that. Yeah, California's a pretty cool place. Austin is very cool. I'm not surprised at that one.
No.
All right. Very good. Good stats. Like, interesting to see as we sort of tiptoe gently out of the pandemic. Some of the, I guess we're probably going to start seeing a lot of pandemic related stats.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see what happens with Silicon Valley in general, because you have so much infrastructure and investment firms and just people that have moved there. You know, is there going to be a sort of, you know, more disparate approach to how we consolidate tech in the US, or just interesting to follow?
It will be interesting to follow for sure.
Definitely.
Hey, let's get geeky. Are we?
So no new CVEs to report, but we did talk about the Runc vulnerability last week, and then this came out, which was a very good breakdown on the Runc. It's a POC for the mount, for how to basically, you know, use Runc to mount your host system into a container. So
it is. It's funny, you know, at the end of it, we're like, this would be pretty easy to do a POC. Why should we do one? Wait a week.
That was, it was exactly why it came across my desk, because I was looking through and trying to see if it was worth writing up actually for work. And then I came across this and I was like, oh, somebody already did it. Well, yeah, good for them. And
well done, community.
Yeah, I wanted to give a shout out. Who
is this guy?
It was
Shamtar French.
It's a blog, yeah.
I don't know who it is, but we should give credit where credit's due if we can maybe roll down and figure it out. Thanks to Alexa Sarai, Runc maintainer, for his fast responses to all his work. Oh, so people helped, but we don't know who the actual person is. And to Google for the bounty. Oh, is this the person that discovered it? Maybe.
Yeah, Google paying bounties. Google has 3.5 million for bounties this year, if anybody's interested. And I think it's like 3 million for like all the big providers like Amazon, Microsoft. They pay a good chunk of money for these bounties. So
this will be a bit of fun. We should put this link definitely into the chat, because this is the kind of one that people are going to want to grab and run with, because it's pretty fun. There it is. Good. Cool. Yeah, I went and checked our YouTube one last week to make sure these things are playback when people are watching it when they do, which is good. All right, that was very cool. Very big thanks to people when we say I'd like to see things happen, and then they actually do. Is that our only CVE-ish thing?
Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
Yeah, right. I mean, we can talk about the vulnerabilities that I just created in my home server, but for now, we're just going to get into the crazy stuff.
All right.
Yes.
Ding.
I'm sure if you're on the internet, you might have seen somebody mention this week. Amazon devices will soon automatically share your internet with neighbors. Yes, Amazon Sidewalk coming in.
All right. Opt in by default. In America only.
Yeah, because obviously this would not fly in other countries. But what is Amazon Sidewalk? It's a network service mesh that is not just your own local network, but also between other Amazon devices. Yeah. So it's a maximum bandwidth of a Sidewalk bridge. Well, I should probably not start with that paragraph and start with the one above. Sidewalk is a shared network that helps devices work better, operated by Amazon at no charge to customers. It's free because why? Why do we give things for free? Yeah, so low bandwidth working range of devices to help find pets, valuables, tile trackers, and help devices stay online even if they're outside the range of their home or Wi-Fi. Now, this isn't all devices really, so it's not like you're going to be walking down with your phone and you're going to be able to connect. But realistically, if you're using an Amazon Tile or some sort of tracking device and you walk into another Amazon device and they pick it up and report back as to where it is, that's just another entry point to be exploited. I don't really understand why it's like, oh yeah, that's okay. It's not going to be a phone. It's going to be a tile, or what were some of the other things they said? The sidewalk per account, it's capped at a maximum amount of data usage and there only a certain amount of bandwidth that's allowed. But still, why would you want that?
This feels like this is Ars Technica, but it feels like the article was written by Amazon. Like it's not.
Oh yeah.
Well, other than the fact it says experimental wireless mesh networking turns users into guinea pigs, which sounds like there's something in here is going to be critical. Like, but it isn't really. But
well, I mean, the thing that I was reading was when they specifically pulled from the web page, which 100% obviously is Amazon. They published a white paper with the technical underpinnings. Probably should read that before I take a massive critical stance on it. But it is an interesting way to go about things. I'll say that, to use other people's devices in order to track your own sort of IoT devices. I don't know.
If you look at the list, right, you think some of the weird things like the Ring, the whole range of those products, Floodlight Cam, Spotlight Cam, Echo Dot. I have an Echo Dot. All the Alexa, like all these IoT devices, like what an attack surface that creates. And the result of it is information about who comes and goes from your house, when you're home, when you're not home, where you are. Like Ring
is video streaming. If I wanted to break into somebody's house, if I could have a feed as to when people come and go, I know exactly who's in the house and when to go in, right? Like it's creepy.
It's super dangerous. I mean, it's very, if you're just kind of like la 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 la, I like internet, then it's neat. It probably is how the future will go, but like to be the first person to do it and create, and so that there is this kind of big internet thing. I don't know. I think I'm more supportive of the crazy Elon Musk satellite posse that's flying through the sky. If we're talking about,
I mean, if Amazon could also just go and decide they want to set up a bunch of different, like let's say it's Wi-Fi or something like that in the cities or in the different areas, or use Elon Musk for an example, instead of turning every single small device into some receiver, right? That's the thing that just kind of rubs me the wrong way too, is I mean, I'm not really a big fan of all the IoT devices in general, but it's and it's interesting too, because I'm assuming that, because you think about it, if you have a bunch of IoT devices, are you using something like a separate hub so that all your devices are all of your devices connected directly to your router? Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm getting into Ring, is Ring connected to Amazon Alexa, which is then connected to the router? Because that's actually like a couple jumps too. So it also makes your pathway a little bit, like if you get in and you're on Amazon Alexa's sort of private network, your virtual network there, well then you have access to all the devices. Can you get up to your actual router? I don't know. I'd have to look at that, but
it would take 5 minutes or so, but probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't seem like this. It just feels like the devices themselves and the networks themselves, I don't feel that they were designed. They're the soft inner. I feel like they're the soft inner. When you're in, there's not going to be the security controls in place because it's going to assume you're in. So then if there's one crack in the egg, you're in the yolk.
Yeah. And when you're in, you probably have root permissions on whatever tiny OS is running, right? And then all you need to, if you have internet access, I just go and download all the tools that I want and work on the private network and see what I can get through, right?
That's it. So that's why it just seems super dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, not to mention all the data that's going to get collected, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, it's my final bet on it. It also seems a little cocky, doesn't it? Right? Amazon's like, yeah, we got so many devices. We're going to create a global mesh. That's how many devices we got out there. You all use us. You know it. So we're just going to turn it all on, and presto, we have global intermesh.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right.
Great.
All right. So this next one I added. It was in dark reading, and it must have been a slow news day for Robert Lemos, contributing writer. But let me just read you the headline. I don't want to blow your mind here, all right, Michael. But the headline is encryption helps companies avoid breach notifications. Which, all right, okay. Immediately, I went, "What are you talking about? I use encryption and I don't have to tell you that I was breached." Hold on, let me read more. But then the second line was that was a bit controversial. But the second line was just straight up stupid. With nearly twice as many firms suffering a breach compared with the previous year, I need a citation there. There isn't one. Limiting the damage becomes more important. Which I'm like, all right, duh. If regardless of whether there's more firms suffering breaches, limiting the damage becomes, of course, it's important. That's security. But then the last three words, a survey finds. They needed a survey to find that out. They conducted a survey, and turns out limiting the damage is important when breaches are happening.
You're blowing my mind right now, Steve.
I'm blowing your mind.
It's Friday.
I'm blowing your mind. It's crazy. I didn't know any of this. So this is news. I'm glad they wrote this article to inform me of these important parts of our security strategy. But the controversial part later on, like blah, 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 they talk about the 451 research report. Well, I don't know why you needed a report for that. But the shocking thing, and I'll throw it up on the screen now, is that they are claiming that, like GDPR, if there might be data out there, you have to say, and you have to say with a certain time, and you'll be punished if you're not, right? That's GDPR. But this guy is saying that companies, and I can't remember how many companies there are, but there's a few stats in here, saying that when they heard that if you were breached, but the data that leaked, and leaked, not maybe leaked, was encrypted, you don't need to tell anybody. There are certain regulations, I guess, in certain, I don't know, I'm going to go with states, I don't know, where that is the case, and that is the motivation for some people to start encrypting their data. So that if it does leak, or when it leaks, if that's your security strategy, you don't need to tell anybody. And it's one of these things, it's like, what the hell? This is why it's in the WTF section.
Yeah.
There's so many in one article. So that's just like,
because
what?
Only because the data that's accessed is encrypted, you don't need to tell people that the data was accessed.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
That's pretty bad, right? No, because encryption doesn't last forever.
There's different types of encryption. Which encryption are we talking about?
It doesn't say. So
there's also people that think encoding is encryption.
That's all base 64, so we're good.
Yeah. That was like Kubernetes secrets, 4 years ago. It was base 64, right? That's why Vault became a thing.
Yeah. So that's
I don't know. What's the conclusion kind of from this, that we need encryption? I
don't know. It doesn't really, it's not a very opinionated article. It is saying
SEO article, it looks like. Yeah, because the level of awareness at the end, they just talk about half of all business executives are worried. I actually think this is the 451 research that we were saying WTF at like 3 months ago. Almost half of all business executives are worried that in the future, quantum computing can make their encrypted data vulnerable again. But it's nice because at least, and I read up here, something like 82% of companies are worried about the risks of remote workers and what they pose to security, which...
Well, there's a good bit of data.
Yeah, I'll take that. It's better than... What was the one from a while ago? Was 50%, less than 50% think that they are less exposed to security risks in COVID, in the COVID time.
Some of the stats are in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
But yeah, it just seemed
my
ridiculous.
mind's on fire right now, Steve. You got to calm
Your
down.
mind's on fire. Your mind's on fire.
Too
This
much
encryption thing is going to catch on.
Yeah, too much craziness. And so I've had so much craziness for the day that I want to move on to the next section.
All right.
Done.
All right, let's go straight into the first one.
Big spenders.
Do my Home Alone face. Jeez.
Huge spenders.
1.8 billion for the entire history of everybody's coding problems ever. I do think there's a lot of data. I don't understand how you put a price on that other than user count, but there's a lot of, when we first saw this, it was like, oh, throw that at some big data and I'm going to get all sorts of developer weird behavior. And I don't know what you could get out of it though. It feels valuable though.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like, is it process?
I don't know. There's a weird tick at the end.
Yeah, but
it's sort of plural. I don't know.
Yeah, they sold off their TikTok shares and then went and bought Stack Overflow. So congratulations. Maybe they needed to offset some of that TikTok earning, so they went and had another expense. But
yeah,
it's a wild purchase. Here's to hoping that Stack Overflow doesn't change. And I mean, I think you said like one of the best things about Stack Overflow is it's just question answer. It's not like those recipe things on Google, right? That need a paragraph and have to be formatted in a specific way. It's like, what am I looking for so I can copy paste and break something in my own local host, right?
Right.
Which is, it's the charm of Stack Overflow. Maybe you need to read a little bit more. But
there's no adverts. Like there was no adverts. And now that's what I'm afraid of. It's just going to go bonkers.
And if anybody knows what their business strategy is and how they make money, would love it. It attracts more than 100 million visitors monthly, the company says. Monthly?
Yeah, mostly cut and pastes.
That's a lot. And as you get into this stuff too, you also realize, how do you attract, is it 100 million unique visitors? Is it 100 million clicks? Is it, if I come in two different browsers, am I two different users? I always find these things interesting when you get into the click side of things. Anyways.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah, we have three big spenders. This is a big week.
This one I don't have a price on.
Yeah, because it was just the announcement.
Yeah.
So we probably have to check back in 2 months, 3 months ish. But
Cloud Guru.
Yeah. And Cloud Guru also bought Linux Academy, right, last year. So it's
all happening.
The consolidation of tech education.
Tech education?
Online tech education?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, Pluralsight's pretty big, so it kind of makes sense that they catch on. But it's like, I kind of felt like they were competitors. I don't know. What's left?
Yeah, what is? I mean, it's
just
the
Code Cloud and Killer SH, like for
Yeah.
specific our area.
Yeah.
But it's huge.
And then you have just all the cloud providers and their specific educational resources. But yeah, it's interesting because if I go to a cloud provider, at least I know that what I'm getting is streamlined for their specific products. It's interesting when you get into like Linux Academy and sort of these companies that are more branching across different products, because then they definitely go to Google and they say, hey, we want to put a course on our site, what do you got for us? And then they come in and do stuff, and they contract stuff out. So it's interesting to see how that relationship might change in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I guess it says something. Well, we probably know personally from this industry, finding people who are heavily educated in cloud and Kubernetes and security, it's hard. So I could see why somebody would go, you know what, I'm going to buy that because Lots of people need lots of training, and
Yep.
that will not stop. All right. Now let's jump to this weird one. This just slid in this morning onto my radar, even though it's, I think, a couple days old. I love the name of the company. Redacted.
It
comes out of stealth. 60 million in their second round, actually, their Series B, right? And I don't know, did you click on that? If you investigated?
Yeah. We make nothing happen. That's a great selling
point. It made me laugh.
Yeah.
It's probably going to kill my internet to do this, but
yeah, somebody
that was good.
Somebody needs to pay their marketing team. It's good.
Yeah, that is hot. I like them already. But there's a little bit about their method to proactively go after hackers to recover data loss and disrupt activities. It's like a good, was it a good offense is it? It's the other way around, right? Defense is a good offense. Offense is a good
good
defense,
offense is the best defense.
That's it. That's what it is.
Defense wins championships, though.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I honestly really like the tasks thing, the remediation actions, looking at events, different alerts, tell you like if you're at spikes or something like that. And this whole baselining thing, it's shocking that if you scroll down a little bit, it'll give you like their browser there. The baseline is huge, right? Because there's so many events. How do you know what to go into? How do you know what to remediate? You probably have a security team. They only have so much time in the day. It's really, really smart insights into patterns, and patterns I think is going to be the next sort of big thing as we get more ingrained with ML and AI and stuff like that. So
it looks very snowflakey, doesn't it? Like
yeah,
something like that is sitting in the background.
I mean, there's so much data now, right? Like there's exponentially growing, so many more attack surfaces, so many more events. So you can't hope to sit through and process them all. You need some sort of tool to show you all this. So pretty cool.
I think you said there's so much data now. I saw something in a headline or in Wired or something saying like in the last 2 weeks we created more data than we have since the beginning of time. Something like that. I was like, if it wasn't 2 weeks, it was 2 months, but whatever was a tiny amount. It was an amount that I was involved in throughout the entire part. And it's like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing.
You're involved.
I was contributing heavily to. All righty. I've already been diving into this, so I've kind of screwed up. Are we on our final section?
We are. It is.
Does everybody know what time it is?
But no, yeah, solid.
All right. So we're gonna do. Do you want to do this one? Because you've been playing. This is your player.
Oh no, you can bring it up first, and then I'll show Cockpit a little bit at the end. But I know I said this is going to tie into how I said I was going to do Prometheus and Grafana last week, but there are some issues with dependencies that you have to worry about.
All right.
So yeah, Google came out with this. It's open source insight. It's a project they've been working on, and it's just how to understand your dependencies. If there's a project that you want to check out and you want to look at. Well, let's just showcase it because it probably is a lot better than me talking. Try like Runc, for example, because we were talking about the Runc vulnerability, and so obviously like there's a bunch of fork things, but open containers Runc is the main repository that you would want to check out.
So I click here. Get rid of that.
And so we have links. So the origin, the repo, if you want to check it out, the different projects. The Open SSF scorecard, so the Security Foundation scorecard, so you can see what's going on. Pretty cool.
That's cool.
And so certain repositories and certain dependencies won't have something like this, so you can go through and say, okay, what are my direct links I need to worry about, my direct dependencies, and so you can see the dependencies and the dependents there. There's direct dependencies, there's indirect. Sometimes if you're directly dependent on something, but they're secure, maybe you don't necessarily need to worry as much about the indirect one because it has to go through 2 sort of steps to get to you, right?
Yeah, got it.
A couple different things. And then, one of the main things that I like is if you go to the compare window. So there's just all the versions there. But if you go to the compare window, you can check out latest version and you can compare it to any other version previously that is listed in GitHub. I personally just swap the two.
Whoa. Woo!
Yeah. So let's say you want to go back to 1.0.0, then you can see what dependencies have changed, what updates there have been. It will also tell you the license changes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. I could play with this a lot. I'm gonna go pre-1. Yep. Lots of changes.
It's very cool. And I mean, the licensing change alone is really useful. And it's also just, so one of the things too, if you go to the dependency tab and you click on the graph on the right there for Runc.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you didn't tell me about this.
So it's a way of visualizing your dependencies and everything that's needed, because there's a ton here, and how they're all intertwined, right?
Oh,
Now,
sorry, I'm making it invisible because I'm playing too much with it.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, this Runc is actually a lot more ingrained than some other ones. There are some simpler ones out there. Or try. I was looking at if you try to type in like Kubernetes or something like that, that comes up, which is a ridiculous one, but you might get a couple. You might have to move there. Yeah, there you go. And then do the chart with that one, so you can see. Look at and see, so you can see all the licenses associated with the other projects. Right.
This is.
Yeah, I figured that was gonna be crazy.
It's coming right for me. That is bonkers. That's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good tool time.
Yeah, if you go to the overview there. Yeah, so like all those licenses and the security advisories, the licenses are also associated with all of your other dependencies too, right? So if you're going to adopt a project and they're going to change the license on you, or they're going to screw you over, then you might say, hey, like, okay, well, we can't go forward with this version. We're going to have to maintain that internally. And you can kind of understand where you want to move to, and you can make more educated decisions because of that. So really cool. I think very, very useful. And they did a really good job too with this website and the visualization. So
it's next level. So the thing that I was going to show you, that you're going to like, you're probably going to laugh actually when I show you this, because I don't even know if I could say it looks Web 2.0, but Black Duck, one of my former sort of lives, got the duck to prove it, made this. I was playing with Cobra. So have you ever seen openhub.net?
No, I don't think so.
Look at it. It just went, hi, I'm the year 2000. So, but it started as the exact same thing. It was, if I want to use a project and I'm concerned about it, you could come here and you could type in American IPA. You can tell what I search on. And I just type that. Or you can misspell really obvious things. And you come in and you start to get lines of code, contributors, references, security, vulnerability report. Yeah. It's similar, right?
Yeah.
Commits per month, contributors per month.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. And you can see there's a little bit extra effort's been put in post synopsis acquisition of Black Duck, but it was like one of those things that I just felt had so much potential, because it was like, oh, they could just make this so awesome, and they just kind of didn't. And now it still looks like this, and now this awesome thing exists. So, oh well, forget that. Let's go here.
Upgrade. Yeah, it's definitely pretty cool. And I mean, I believe really a lot of this is just scraping GitHub, like open source GitHub repositories, going through the dependency list of those repositories and creating a graph, right? It's just that simple. It's just that simple.
It's just that simple. Yeah. We just do it. It's only gonna, of course, unless you are Google or something, it might be a little expensive in terms of just sheer processing power.
Yeah, and a massive engineering effort.
But when you say it like that, I kind of wish we'd done it.
Yeah. And then got funding based off it. I think we could do that.
I think so.
All right.
And
And then
that's out there.
yeah, I'm
Are
going
you going to
to
go now?
Yeah, I'll show you Cockpit. So I can also show you exactly why I don't have my demo ready for today for y'all, but I'll have it next week and a little bit of dependency issues and some story time. So
Story.
it's story time. So for anybody that's not familiar, this is Cockpit. It's basically it's an open source project. It's the upstream project for RHEL for a lot of the VM management for RHEL software. So I decided, because normally what I used to do is I used to use Ubuntu or CentOS for my VMs. Yeah, it's fine. We get it. It's past 5 where you are. Stop showing off. And I used to use Ubuntu or CentOS for my VMs. Use things like Overt, Virt Manager, Versh, basically libvirt, sort of from there. And so I was like, okay, let's try CentOS Stream. Let's try Cockpit. Let's check it out. And I got in. CentOS Stream was easy to set up. Download the ISO, plug it in, pull from source, set up your mirrors, good to go. And it's really easy to get started with Cockpit. You basically come in, web console. It's on my private network, so don't come after me. And I can go and check in and look at my other VMs. I have set up 2 of my nodes so that I think this machine's off because I don't like paying for power. But you can manage a bunch of VMs across just the different nodes that you have. What sucked about this was I'm used to using Terraform for a lot of VM creation. So I would go in and I would remote exec in and say, hey, here's everything I want for the VMs. And then I could recreate it and I could tear it down and bring it back up again. And you could always bind things directly to the bridge that you wanted. So you could get a private IP. Now, if you create a virtual machine in Cockpit, it doesn't give you a private IP. It doesn't connect to the bridge automatically for some reason. I don't know if this is my fault. I think there's some security setting that's stopping this from happening somewhere. But regardless, I can go in and I can use Versh to create a VM and link it directly to the bridge that I've created. So you can see I have a bridge there. Realistically, the VM should be able to connect to it. Now, when I started creating these VMs, I connect to the bridge. It would be fine. Set up my cluster. Everything was good. And then I decided, okay, well, what's going on? Maybe I should try to play around with these settings to get a VM to start up. And what I did was I actually changed the bridge settings and the local network here and erased all the IPs for my VMs. So I have to go in and recreate them. But I do know that you can go and basically add these virtual machines back to the network. Problem is, bridge control is gone. BRCTL. I don't know if I'm probably murdering the pronunciation, but I know it is bridge control. That is technically deprecated in CentOS Stream, but it's not in CentOS 8. So all the commands that I was used to using to set up bridge and interact with bridge is now gone. And it's like IP link and it's that. And anyway, so I have to learn something new. And I just kind of got into this dependency thing. And I was like, oh, it's, I'll just try CentOS Stream. It's fine, until you get into the debugging thing and you realize, now I need to learn a new tool. I need to learn a new program. I need to learn something new. And it's not necessarily the fault of Cockpit for this, more incompetence on my part, but it's just kind of my small frustration and why these dependency things really matter. It's not necessarily a security issue all the time. Sometimes it's just an operational and learning issue. And so if you're going to make these grand changes, you also need to understand the impact that it has on the workforce and your day-to-day before you do what I did. And also, don't make network changes when things are working. Come on. It's like, it's fine. Anyways, learned lesson. Overall, it's a really cool project though. So you can go into services and I can look at all the different applications that I want running. If I wanted to run, let's say I wanted to run Podman. Podman's not running, but I could come in and I could enable it. So Podman service is now running. For those of you who don't know, Podman is a container service. It's like Docker, but without the daemon. So Podman only works when you're interacting via API, so it doesn't have some sort of background process sitting there. Now, not running right now. It'll come up. I think I need a restart, but Podman will just show up here. So virtual machines is here. If I go to applications, I can see that, for example, machines is running. Let's see if Podman comes up. And then really what should happen is Podman should come up here. Live demo, pray to the gods. Yeah, I think I need to restart. But yeah, you can do the same thing if you want to add something that's storage. Is it running now? Oh, because it needs to be interactive. That's fine. The other aspect, the other thing that we need is like, let's say I wanted to add NFS storage or something like that, a storage daemon, and they would all show up in services. So it's pretty cool. You can have SE Linux, you can configure SE Linux policy directly in here. So I have 10 policies specific telling me what I can and can't do. I have a feeling that that was one of the reasons why the VMs were not automatically connecting to the bridge, is there's some sort of policy that is there. So yeah, maybe I might go turn off all my security controls. I'll just disable everything and then it'll probably work, right?
Real world model.
Yeah.
You're learning the struggle.
Mm-hmm. So one of those, it's cool. Software updates, keeps it all here. You can have it'll show you all your updates, show you all the versions. You can go through and check it against all your Google dependencies, see what happens. You can set automatic updates for security updates only. If I want to do all updates, and let's say it's going to shut down the VM or restart, it will literally say, hey, do you want to send a message to all the users that are currently using it? So this is all open source tool. So if you have like some sort of small, home server setup, or even if you are like an education or something like that, and you wanted to get a bunch of people in your class set up and using a server, this is a pretty cool way to manage stuff. You have your kernel dump, diagnostic reports, and all your logs and overviews. So yeah, and it was literally between the download and setup, it was half an hour to get started, to set up the install on bare metal and then get this going and get access to it. So pretty cool.
Interesting.
Check it out.
Except for that bit that didn't work. Yeah,
that's mostly my fault, if we're being honest. Because what's funny is it did work, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Terraform code, fix it so that I don't have to create VMs in this. Because the one thing VM creation is really easy. So you can actually import VMs as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But creating a VM is really easy. Like I can just say, hey, I want to do a test. I have like 6 terabytes on this server. I can say I want it to be 500 gigabits. I want to create a new volume. I have a storage pool, but I don't necessarily need to pull from that. It has all of the other operating systems available if you want to pull it. So I can say, hey, I want to do, let's say, Ubuntu. Create a new volume. 500, stay that way. Memory, say 4. Immediately start and create. Let's shut these 2 down because I know that I kind of maxed out my memory on this. And hopefully it works.
This is just running on your Mac.
No, this is running on my server.
Okay. So
it's running on my server. So I'd refresh it a little bit. So something happened.
Windows server. Is it dead?
It is.
Work? Yeah.
Broken.
This is how we learn from our mistakes, not from our victories.
Yeah, let's see what happened. It's probably there. It's just being slow. But
well, we just believe you.
Yeah, we can just believe me.
Okay. Half our viewers have left when that failed,
Yeah.
So just happened.
I mean, it's fine. It checks out.
It's all right. Funny. Are you good? Is it there?
Oh yeah. No, this is just a monitoring one that I had sitting here. So it's just sitting in the background there, booting hard disk. But realistically, if you had some sort of terminal or anything like that, you could go in and just use a VNC console directly, right? So like if you've used VNC Viewer in the past, they've just ported that directly in here. So it's nice. Like if you wanted to get started in Ubuntu, install Ubuntu, and you just go through the setup for it. One of the reasons why I want to move off this is because I don't want to work in here and do a setup, right? Like I want to use a cloud init, or I want to use like a specialized VM setup, so I don't have to do an install all the time, right? Every time you set up a VM, you got to go through and set it up. That's just a pain, right? Yeah. Oh yeah, there it is. It's up.
Hey, all right.
Just took a little while.
Yeah, you can see it.
All right, is our viewer coming back? What the heck?
Now, yeah, that'd be good. Has he done?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So yeah, it's interesting. And then you can literally just directly in here, I have my keyboard, I go through, I do the setup, blah, blah, blah.
All right.
Yeah. And
Nice.
then, so really easy to get started, especially if you're new. Check it out. Worth a download. Also, I have to unlearn bridge control now. So that's not fun. Yeah, that's the tool time. I'm sorry. I'll have my cluster up. And I think you were doing a Prometheus and Grafana cluster as well, right? You were creating one on your Pi cluster?
I was, if you want to see the disastrous outcome of that, there it was. Like I was, this is the death of my Pi cluster, essentially. Well, actually, I can prove it. There it is. That's not connected to anything anymore. See how you like it. You give me grief, I can just unplug you. When the robots take over the world. This was I did have Prometheus Grafana. I had some stuff running. Actually, you can see I have my illegal stack rock still there with no license key, of course. But I had a bunch of stuff. It was kind of good, except my storage for Grafana was non-persistent. So I was like, I'll just go out into the world and implement some persistent storage with Runc, which was supposed to be cross-compiled to run on ARM64, but I have a feeling the latest and greatest is not. So I got to go back maybe a version or two to make that work according to the internet. And then when I just tried to wipe it all out, the namespace turned into a zombie and sat there for 5 hours. I got frustrated and I unplugged it. So that's how my day ended.
All right. So yeah, we're hiring on the show. Come debug our stuff and tell us what to do. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So that's it.
Yeah.
Now I have all I have is the beer to protect me.
I was gonna say this last bit of the show, not really tool time. It was more an extension of the WTF section.
Yeah. A demonstration of the collective incompetence of your hosts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just how most home projects go, right? You just continue doing things until you figure it out and move on. But
that's how we learn.
Yeah, it's also why you get people who want to stick with what works and can't really blame them.
Yeah, exactly. I fear change.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we wrap it up.
Let's do it. Yeah, awesome. We covered a ton today. The Azure Arc stuff's really interesting. I'm really curious to see the hybrid cloud wars and how that plans out. And speaking of which, there's that Service Mesh Wars article. I'm not sure if anybody's seen that. Yeah, we should talk about that next week. And I started going through the supply chain security brief as well by the CNCF. So I think, Service Mesh Wars, a little bit of supply chain security next week, and definitely the Prometheus and Grafana setup / a little bit of my best practices when I don't break my cluster. I think it'd be pretty cool.
All right. Yeah. That's it. Let's close it out. Thanks for watching.
Week.
We have two viewers. They came back when you were done your demo.
Yeah, the demo worked. Whoever came back, the demo worked. All right. Now have a good weekend. Go away. See ya.
Bye.